It's time for the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Each week, Trading Stocks Made Easy demystifies stock trading and investing so you can profit big. And now, here's the host of Trading Stocks Made Easy, the wealthy investor, Tyrone Jackson.
Hey there, it's Tyrone Jackson, the wealthy investor, and welcome to 2023. Congratulations, you've made it. You're alive and hopefully ready to thrive financially. I'm so glad that you're with me, and I have a challenge for you in 2023. Today's episode is all about up-leveling your wealth thoughts. Up-leveling your wealth thoughts. So my question to you is, are you really ready to go to the next level financially? Are you ready for something big to happen for you as it relates to money? Are you ready for a transformation? Well, that's what we're going to talk about on today's episode of Trading Stocks Made Easy, and I hope you have a millionaire's mindset. In fact, some of you listening have developed a billionaire's mindset because I know how much you love trading in the stock market the same way that I do, and you love using sophisticated trades that not only include the basics of stock market trading, but also things like in-the-money leaps that are 2 or 3 years out. So when your favorite stock begins to move, you get exponential growth on, let's say, a $5 or $10 move. Why? Because when there's a small movement in the stock, there's a magnified movement in the deep in the money option. Well, that means you're expecting something good to happen because when you're buying and trading deep in the money options 2 or 3 years out, you have to be expecting something good to happen on your favorite S&P or Dow component. You see, your life reflects your thoughts, your desires, and what you anticipate on the inside. So how many times here on this show have you heard me talk about your millionaire mindset? For those of you who are new to listening to this show, a millionaire mindset means that you're willing to expect or set up residual income streams in your life. You see, you get in this life what you expect to a large extent. So if you're one of those people who mope around and you expect bad things to happen, guess what? You're literally attracting bad energy. And you won't be surprised in the next 6 months if you get an unexpected tax bill, you lose your job, a demotion, or you lose a job to someone else. One of the reasons that negative things happen has to do with your thinking. You see, positive people with positive expectations attract positive outcomes. It happens automagically, whether you believe it or not. Think about your friendship circle right now. You know, I've always said on this show, if you take the top 5 people in your life that you're closest to, think about what their income is divided by 5, and magically, that'll be your income? Well, I actually took that one from Tony Robbins, and I don't know who he got it from, but I found that to really be true. Well, since we're at the top of 2023, it's time for a change. It's time to move forward. It's time for greater things to happen in your life financially so that you can have the life that you deserve. Now, why is it I want great things to happen for you financially? Because if great things are happening for you, the more people you can help. You see that? You see, money doesn't really change you. It just brings out what's inside of you. Now, the inspiration for today's show are 2 people I had the pleasure of speaking with within the last week. One was a younger female in her 20s, and one was an established entrepreneur in his 50s. And since everybody knows me as the money guy, we're ultimately going to talk money, stock market investing to some extent with anybody who crosses my path. What I find really interesting was the 25-year-old female as we began to talk about her future and the next 5 to 10 years of her professional life. Now, like a lot of people, she desired what? Well, someday I'd like to be able to get a home. And she was saying, you know, the thing about staying here in Los Angeles is that houses are so expensive, so I might wind up buying a house in a place like Utah, since that's where I actually went to college. And I said, well, what are you seeing for yourself financially? What do you desire? What do you want? She goes, well, if I can get a house within the next 2 years, I'd be very happy with that. Again, I realized that it might not be in Los Angeles. It may be outside of the Los Angeles area because of price. And I said, well, what does your house look like? What does it feel like? Well, she says, well, if I can't get a home, I'd start with a townhouse or a condominium, and then maybe I would trade up. And I said, fantastic. And you see this happening for yourself within the next 10 years? She goes, yeah, I'd really like for this to happen for me within the next 10 years. I said, hey, can I challenge you for a second? She said, sure. I said, well, since you have 10 years, why would you buy just one home? She says, well, Tyrone, what do you mean? I said, well, why don't you focus on buying 2 homes, one that you live in and the other that you rent out? Now, this is someone professionally who's getting to know me pretty well. And she goes, oh, Tyrone, there you go with that wealthy investor talk again. She goes, I don't want to be like you, have to travel from one house in New York to your other house in Los Angeles. I said, no. That's by choice. That's by design. For you, why can't you have one house or condo that you live in and maybe about 10 minutes away have the house, condo, or townhouse that you rent out? And she said, huh. And as she paused and looked down and thought about it, she goes, I never thought about having 2 homes that I own and one that I rent. I said, yeah, the benefit of having one that you rent is that someone would ideally, under ideal circumstances, be paying off that second home for you, and you'd be building up equity over time. I said, well, if we're dreaming about houses, hey, what does your stock market portfolio look like? She says, well, I never thought about owning stocks. Do you really think I could own stocks? I said, yeah, you're talking to the wealthy investor. What stock do you think you would like? She says, well, I use an awful lot of Apple products. Great. She goes, my parents are shopping at Home Depot all the time. Even better. And she says, and I love when I have the opportunity to go to Disney World. Well, there you go. Even if she had no financial education, she has a sense already of what she'd like to invest in. Now, isn't it interesting that Apple shares have gone up at least 100% in the last 7 years? The same with Home Depot. Disney, not so much, but that's a place where you can learn how to put your investment dollars to work. So when I pointed all of that out to her, she goes, very interesting. I said, how many homes does your parent? I then asked her, how many homes do your parents have? She says, just the one. And I said, why? She goes, I don't know. I never asked. And I said, is it possible that you're doing what your family expects and what you've been taught as opposed to what would make your life easier? Silence. And she goes, oh, Tyrone, there you go with that wealthy investor speak again. And that's correct. Because if you're personally in my professional sphere, guess what? Money is going to come up. In the same way that if I were to have dinner with my doctor, I'm ultimately going to talk about my heart, my hands, my cholesterol level. It's just something that we have in common. So for my new female colleague, she had something else to think about. Now let me explain to you why this story is so important. Because the older we get, the less we dream. Let me say that again. The older we get, the less we dream. In fact, this wonderful person said to me, well, I want to be realistic. Well, what is realistic? Do you realize that for you and I, realistic is whatever we decide is realistic in our lives? So the idea of having multiple homes was appealing to me when I read many years ago what rich people do and why they have multiple homes. It's not always just to show off. It's to grow your wealth in a way that is comfortable for you. You, even if you just have $10,000 right now, you can make choices so that in 10 or 15 years, you are wealthier. Now, we both know that home ownership actually is a primary force of wealth building. But I'm here to talk to you about home ownership and the stock market. What would have happened if you bought Apple shares 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Would it have appreciated as much as your home or more? Well, more than the average home. That's what Apple actually did over the last 15 years. But rather than try to pick and get it right, what if you just chose, well, a little bit of everything? Putting money in your 401k, having an investment property, and a small stock market portfolio will make you better off 5, 6, 7 years from now than where you are right now. So are you willing at the beginning of 2023 to expand, evaluate, and review your money thoughts and beliefs? Because what you're thinking right now is affecting how much money will come into your life and your household in 24 months, which is just 2 years from now. Your thoughts are very, very powerful. If you expect good things to happen, you're going to get a reality that meets your expectations. What are your expectations for 2023? Now, listen to me, because this is part of the up-leveling process, is asking the right questions. Are you living right now, financially, your expectations or your parents' expectations? Are you living right now your financial expectations of your life or of your spouse's life? Whose financial dreams are you living? Yours or what other people expect of you? One of the ways I became the wealthy investor is to learn that I came from a background where we were afflicted with poverty. And poverty was a low vibrational thought, low vibrational expectations about the world. So where I grew up, everybody had low expectations. And I always felt a little bit like, what is wrong with these people? If you can be anything in the world, why would you choose the lowest thing in financial terms on the totem pole? So I learned to have bigger expectations. And guess who I met? Fascinating people who were worth a lot more than my family. And I hung out with them, genuinely like them. And that helped to up-level my life. So in my 20s, I was kind of hanging out with a crowd where it seemed like almost every 6 months, someone was becoming a millionaire or multimillionaire. And these were people that I could actually reach out and touch, or at least they were friends of a friend that I'd see at like when someone had a party or a barbecue. And I would always ask those people questions about how they got to where they were. And I would say, first of all, congratulations. My buddy tells me that you just sold your business for, oh yeah, that was great. And I would say, well, what were you looking for next? You see, I was actually interviewing them because I wanted to learn as much as I could about their expectations and their money thoughts. And I remember the first time a very close friend of mine sold a business for $30 million in his late 20s. And I said, hey, I just got to say congratulations. What are you going to do next? And I remember him saying, well, the first thing is I'm going to take 6 months off and I'm going to think about it so I don't go into my next business venture and wind up exhausted because I'm working so much. So if I take 6 months and think about it, I'll have it all laid out in a clear mind. Take 6 months and think about it. That was amazing for me. So changing your mindset doesn't cost a thing, but sometimes, and this is important, you have to be around people who trigger thoughts that are bigger than your reality. In 2023, are you willing to hang out with people who are 10 times more successful than you are? Not because money makes you a better person, so that your thoughts get up-leveled, so that for just some period of time in 2023, you are outside of your comfort zone. I hope the answer is yes. Now, I'm going to do a commercial right here for our event that takes place in Maui at a 5-star hotel in July. What was so great about last year was being in a room with all of my favorite students who keep up-leveling their stock trading game and their expectations. And many of them brought their spouses to the event. And let me tell you, it was absolutely great. And if you listen to the show, I talk about it. On our last day, I actually wound up crying on stage because I couldn't believe my life was so great that I had helped so many people up-level their lives financially, and I continue to do so. What are you willing to do in 2023 to change the game financially? Is it read a book? Is it be around more successful people? Is it buying a second home? Or is it contributing more to your brokerage account so that when you're stock market trading and covered call writing, your monthly income grows. So much of your future is in your hands right now, and you can change it in a major way. Back in a moment.
Want to increase your stock market trading profits? Then you need to start your monthly membership to WITradeschool.com right now. Don't understand how to write covered calls for monthly income? No problem. Simply review Tyrone's latest stock trades in our video library as many times as you need. WITradeschool.com is all about helping you get the financial education you need to earn money in the stock market and change your financial life. Tyrone Jackson, the wealthy investor, has helped his students earn thousands of dollars per month trading stocks online from home. These are people just like you. So what are you waiting for? Follow Tyrone Jackson's red-hot stock trades and investment strategies today. Don't wait. Start your monthly membership at WITradeschool.com right now.
Hey, it's Tyrone Jackson, Wealthy Investor again, and I just wanted to remind you that if you enjoy listening to the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast, be sure to share it with your friends all across social media, including Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you enjoy hearing about success principles that inspire you, as well as interviews with some of my most successful students, I want to remind you it's right here at the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast, wherever you get your podcast. And make sure you download as much free material as you want at thewealthyinvestor.net. I'll see you there. 2023, you've made it, and we've got a great year ahead of us in the Wealthy Investor program. All right, on this show, we're really talking about the idea of up-leveling your thoughts, getting around new people, reading a book that you hadn't read before, and considering your future. Why would you settle for one house over the next 10 years when maybe, just maybe, you could have 2 or 3? You see, a lot of people choose real estate because they figure, well, people always have to have a place to live. What they don't know is that investing in the stock market requires less capital, and sometimes stocks outperform real estate. Which one do you want to have? The correct answer is both. Wealthy people do a little bit of everything. Well, I told you the inspiration for this particular show today was based on 2 conversations that I had. One with a younger female professional colleague at the beginning of her professional life, and her dreams are coming true. And the second conversation was with someone who was a little bit more established in his 50s, who actually already has his $1.5 million home and his business. So in our last conversation, I said, hey, what are your goals this year financially? He goes, well, I think the business sales will go up 20 to 50%. And that's what my partner and I are planning on having happen in 2023. I said, would you ever consider getting another home? And he says, no, not really. And I said, why? Because, well, my current expenses are. And I realized we spent most of the conversation talking about how much money was going out and how he could cut that out of his life. How he can cut down his expenses. Now, what I would have preferred to spend more time on was how he was going to triple his sales, and then you really wouldn't have to worry about your expenses so much. See, sometimes we give time and energy to shrinking in life because maybe our bills seem overwhelming or we've seen bad things happen to other people financially. Well, instead of worry, what would happen if we adjusted our expectations to expansion? You see, the beautiful thing about tripling your income is if you only double it in the next 52 weeks, you have to be better off. Sometimes in our mindset, we live too small. Well, that costs too much money, so therefore I'm not going to do it. Or even worse off, we don't even have a financial plan. We just hope that good things are going to happen. Well, let me tell you, shrinking and hoping, just hoping that good things are going to happen is never enough. That speaks to the power of pen and paper. What are you willing to write down right now? Are you willing to dare to dream of a bigger life? Well, that involves risk. But the risks really start in your own mind because all risk is not the same. Did you know you can actually control and manage risk? Instead of thinking, I've got to cut this out of my life, cut that out of my life, and those three things, why not maybe cut one so that you can expand someplace else? Now, here's my gift to you today. Most people are not going to coach you through developing an expansive mindset because they're not coaches. But it just so happens that I am also a wealth coach in addition to being a stock market trader. So my job is to push you a little bit and to cause you to question why your life is where it is now and why it's not bigger. So shrinking, cutting is not expansion. Okay? So just because you cut something doesn't mean that you're being financially responsible. Being financially responsible means you're expanding, you're adding to something that will, in some period of time, make your life more financially comfortable. So what are you willing to do? What ball are you willing to start in motion, whether it's starting a business, raising your rates just a little bit, if you're an independent contractor, just a little bit, so you have more money to invest? Doesn't that make sense? Yes, you can see that payoff in 12 months. You could see that payoff of expanding within 6 months, within 24 months. So expansion is a process. So please don't spend 2023 looking at how you can cut all of your expenses so you can have a better life. Where are you willing to invest more time and energy? Because that's where your fulfillment is going to come from. So, 3 pieces of advice. Number 1, in 2023, dream bigger. In 2023, get around more people who are even more successful than you. Get around people who have even more money. Why? You're going to learn and grow from them. And number 3, examine whether your desires are truly yours or something you've been taught, or desires financially that just don't really belong to you. Your goal is to make sure in financial terms you're living your best life, not somebody who is shrinking. Make sense? Well, I hope we have a deal here because I can't wait to hear all of the good things that are going to happen to you in financial terms in 2023. And if you keep the right mindset, believe me, there's a lot of good things coming your way. How do I know? Well, I'm Tyrone Jackson, the Wealthy Investor. And if you and I continue in this cooperative, I will continue to encourage and push you in a direction that gives you a better financial life so that you can help more people. I'll see you next week right here on Trading Stocks Made Easy.
You've been listening to the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Be sure to rate and review our show on iTunes. While you're on iTunes, be sure to click the subscribe button and you'll automatically receive our next episode.